A Brooklyn bishop was robbed at gunpoint in the middle of his Sunday sermon today when he says 3 to 4 men walked in with guns.
Yo, all right.
Larry, when I saw that video, I ain't gonna lie, I was screaming. Baby, when they pan that camera over there to that left.
Ma'am, I don't even know you, ma'am. All right, so you can just stay out of this one. I don't even know you. You need to go and get some weight loss if you want to get, if you want to get, sir, yes, sir.
Whitehead, he appears to grab her from behind, and they move off camera.
Her walk in front of me, going at my wife and my daughter, and I grabbed her.
We gotta talk about this Brooklyn Bishop and how he got himself in the trouble.
Man, if it's one thing I can't stand, it's a dirty, low-down, false prophet.
Well, I believe them people mad at him because he pulled that fake robbery on the internet. And then he got mad because people put it on blast. Well, he ready to fight motherfuckers? Man, stop, dude. You caught up.
So Bishop Lamor Whitehead is not guilty of these charges. We are vigorously going to
The modern preacher. Man, I got a lot to say, but first, let me start off by saying this. As someone who grew up in a church devoting myself to every Christian denomination known to man, I can say that the day of finding a pastor with the bonus to preach the word of God, as is, with no watering down, no excuses, is now kinda dead, including some of my respect for Christianity and its followers. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not atheist by all means, so please don't put me in that category, but I do have the right to criticize these individuals who put on the robe of faith, claiming to have knowledge unknown to the common soul, gaining the trust of desperate patrons just to fill up their pockets with federal tax-free contributions. There used to be a time where preachers was seen as a source of guidance. You will go to your pastor to explain the conundrums you're facing in your personal life. Whether it's marital problems, drug addiction, alienation from your family, your bishop or pastor was the go-to guide where you can vent without judgment. He or she will give you advice from a good book and life experience, guiding you to make the right decision. It's now turned into pray for pay.
So he confirmed tithing in the New Testament. Don't let these pastors tell you you shouldn't tithe no more. They are lying.
Some of these preachers are more concerned with reminding you to pay your tithes and gaining somewhat of a celebrity status on their social media.
Hopefully you follow me on Twitter.
Than actually helping those who's in need. Now, by all means, if you want to pay your tithes, but don't be naive to think that you're throwing coins in a wish fountain. It doesn't work that way. It's sad, really, because at the end of the day, you're pouring your hard-earned cash, filling these preachers' pockets on hope alone. I actually like the term hope. Hope is what motivates us to keep going. Without hope, you'll just be another drone in the system with no ambition or drive to better your life. But hope alone isn't enough. You have to sit down and write a plan. Also, you need to be more realistic with your plans, and this is where clergies usually take advantage of their followers, mainly women, because women tend to include having a partner in their plans. Clerics will pick up on this, guaranteeing a husband or a wife as long as you give yourself to the church. How many times do you hear someone say, "Baby, now the Lord is gonna give you a good husband. He's gonna send you a good man to help take care of you and these 3 kids that you have with 3 different baby daddies. All you have to do is just pray, baby. That's all you gotta do is just pray, and he gonna deliver." Knowing that your daughter or your granddaughter can't even keep a man if her life depended on it. Preachers don't deliver the truth. If you're a bummy individual, they won't tell you that because they might lose a patron. Instead, they deliver false hope so that you can keep paying your tithes every week so that they could fill up their pockets and show their wealth on IG or Facebook. It's amazing how flashy some of these Christian preachers have become. Oh my gosh, I mean, they're showing out. Look at this. What's going on with some of these people? These modern preachers for some reason have the urge to stunt even harder than rappers. James 4:6. God opposes the proud but give grace to the humble. Yet these preachers are far from humble. I mean, when you look at these guys, do you see a man who is wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than him. Proverbs 26:12. Okay. Enough with the Bible verses, but I just wanted you guys to see where I'm coming from with my critique. When I see preachers driving up on stage asking the the congregation for donations to buy a private jet, flaunting their jewelry, designer outfits, or elaborate homes, sometimes I get the impression that some may have picked this occupation for the wrong reasons. Which brings us to today's topic, Bishop Lamor Whitehead, also known as the Bling Bishop. And if you take a look at his Instagram, you can see why he was granted such a title. All you see is designer outfits, jewelry, and his obsession with Rolls Royce, which also plays a major role in his finances. So before we move forward, I just want to make a disclaimer. I just want to say that this video is not to attack nor support Bishop Whitehead. I'm just here to report specific events and maybe give my 2 piece on certain situations. With the information that I'm giving you today, I'll let you judge and form your own opinion. So feel free to express yourself through the comments below. Meet Bishop Lamor Miller Whitehead, preacher, motivational speaker, social activist, community leader, entrepreneur, and the cousin of famous female hip-hop artist Foxy Brown. As you may not be aware, he's also known for his friendship with high-ranking individuals like politician Eric Adams. As for Mayor Eric Leroy Adams, he has done some questionable things that I don't agree with under the guise of policing New York. Him being a former police officer, his political position benefits the NYPD more than the New York citizens as a whole, with the whole let's overfund the police, supporting stop and frisk, and going as far as involuntary hospitalization of someone who appears mentally ill or homeless. So I got my eye on you, Mr. Adams. Trust and believe, I'm watching you. Moving on, Adams once introduced Whitehead at a concert, calling the pastor my good friend and good brother. At one time, Whitehead even ran for Brooklyn Borough President in 2021. Now it all seemed glamorous on the surface, but as we burrow down, we will uncover most of the truth of our great Bishop, Lamor Whitehead. Now before we move on, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys would hit the like and subscribe button. I will definitely appreciate the support. So please guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue with the video. Born in Brooklyn, New York, 1978, Bishop Whitehead was raised by his mother, who unfortunately had to play mommy and daddy to young Lamor as a result of the death of his father, Arthur Miller, a politician and community activist. On the night of June 14, 1978, police officers stopped a motorist for having a suspended license. The motorist protested, and as more officers arrived, a big man with a gun on his hip approached. His name was Arthur Miller, the driver's brother and respected businessman in the neighborhood, leading job fairs and founding community groups. Now Mr. Miller tried to defuse the situation, but officers zeroed in on his gun even though it was legally owned and licensed. One officer put Mr. Miller in a chokehold. Sound familiar? He collapsed, and according to news accounts at that time, foaming out the mouth when officers loaded him in the squad car. His legs were sticking out the window when they pulled away, and he was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. His death led to protests and a march to City Hall. Unfortunately, Mr. Miller left several children, the youngest with his mother's last name being Baby Lamor Miller Whitehead. This tragic event became the catalyst which will mold our bishop into the man that he is today. I say this because as a father and having to grow up with my father in my life, I was able to learn a lot of things that my mom just couldn't teach me. So I understand the role a father plays in his child's upbringing. Therefore, losing a protector, provider, and teacher can be detrimental to both mother and child. Despite the challenges his mom had to face raising young Lamor, he was still gifted with the physique of an athlete, scoring him athletic scholarship with Shaw University, Farmingdale University, and Eastern New Mexico University, where he studied accounting and videography, later returning back to Brooklyn where he worked as a licensed mortgage broker in Manhattan. Now I know this all seems redundant and some of you guys are not interested in his past, but trust me, this information plays a major role on some of his current cases that he's going through right now. Now me telling you this, you would have thought, man, this guy gotta be amazing because he was able to beat the odds through a system that was designed for him to fail, then later becoming the most honest bishop that we know to this day. Man, I wish I could just end the story right there, but unfortunately, there's more to the story. You see, in his 20s, Bishop Whitehead was a very busy man, a man hustling the streets. When I say hustling, I'm talking about committing fraudulent activities, scamming tens of innocent individuals just to satisfy his gluttonous appetite, an appetite for money, cars, and other materials, basically just to show out. Unfortunately, there's this fixation of looking rich but living poor. In 2005, Suffolk County Police received a phone call from a woman who was claiming that somebody bought a motorcycle in Brooklyn, New York in her name, using all of her personal information. She received a phone call from a loan representative about a recent application. But the issue was that she never applied for a loan. Someone took out a loan using her driver's license with her name, but used someone else's picture just to purchase the motorcycle. A few days later, an officer pulled over a man with the same motorcycle that was reported by the previous woman at a traffic stop. The driver was 27-year-old Lamor Whitehead. What followed was a lengthy investigation that uncovered what the police described as a sprawling identity theft and fraud operation set up and run by one person, Lamor Whitehead. But how was he able to do it? Well, Mr. Whitehead was dating a woman who worked at the Long Island dealership and had access to a program called Dealer Track, which contained the personal information and credit histories of the dealership's customers. Now this part's pretty fucked up. Allegedly, he was able to obtain her password to the program as well as individuals with good credit scores, because he was mostly targeting people with good credit scores since it would be easier to obtain whatever vehicle that he might want. Baron Honda customers' identities were stolen and used for fraudulent loan application to purchase cars and motorcycles, according to his 2006 indictment in Suffolk County. The Suffolk County detective who was assigned to the investigation said at that time he was living the high life. Now, during a lengthy trial, at some point the assistant district attorney offered the petitioner, Mr. Lamor Whitehead, the opportunity to plead guilty to a misdemeanor in exchange for a 1-year sentence, which Mr. Whitehead declined the offer, deciding to go to trial, which later bit him in the ass. One thing I can tell you guys is that the way that these things work, it's best to just take the deal rather than go to trial, because if there's a whole bunch of evidence against you, the best bet is to just take the deal. I've never been in a situation like that before, but I know other people who have, and I know other people who are facing 20 years to life. Now, what's crazy is that during the trial, our boy Whitehead was still committing frauds. I mean, one would think that if you're being accused of identity theft, you would lay low and focus more on your case, but nope. You see, Mr. Lamor Whitehead, if you guys remember, was still working as a mortgage broker out of an office in the Empire State Building around 2005 when a symphony conductor named Maximo Bragado Darman and his son Julio Bragado Young entered the office and hired him to help them close on a brownstone in Harlem. Those properties are very popular when it comes to New York and can be very expensive if the owner decides to sell it. The deal was completed. Later, Mr. Whitehead reached out to the elder client privately with a business proposal. If you loan me $200,000, Mr. Whitehead explained, I can pay you back in a month, along with an extra $25,000, according to a lawsuit that followed. I'm guessing he needed the money to pay his lawyers because he went through 3 lawyers for his identity theft case. The conductor, trusting young Whitehead, took out a line of credit on his home, gave him the money, and kept it a secret from his family, planning on surprising them with good news when the windfall came in, his son said. Instead, he was forced to share bad news. Mr. Whitehead was not going to pay him back. It was almost guaranteed he was going to make money on this, Mr. Bragado Young said, referring to his father. He also said he's a disgusting human being. You can quote me on that. For Mr. Whitehead, a steady 4-year run of fraud came crashing down. He filed for bankruptcy in 2006 as a mortgage broker. The real hammer came down in 2008. Mr. Whitehead's trial date had finally arrived for the identity theft charges. Prosecutors spent several days laying out their case, linking Mr. Whitehead to the crimes through phone records and evidence found in his house and car. He was convicted of 17 counts, mostly identity theft, and sentenced to 10 to 30 years in prison. When the lawsuit brought by the symphony conductor was filed that fall, Mr. Whitehead was served his copy in Sing Sing Correctional Facility. The lawsuit led to a judgment for the conductor of $306,000. During his sentence, just like every inmate that we know, they always see the light, and Mr. Whitehead saw the light and gave himself to Jesus Christ. Just one thing I want to let you know is that when you're an inmate arrested or if you're incarcerated, you're open to a lot of things. And this is why when you see inmates, they're always open to religion, because what else you gonna do? You could see an inmate and they will be the most holiest person in jail. And that ends up fooling a lot of people, because usually once they get out, they end up doing the same shit that got them locked up in the first place. But at the end of the day, they're just playing an act to gain sympathy and hopefully to get out a little bit earlier on good behavior. but let me continue. During his incarceration, Lamor Whitehead began to study at New York Theological Seminary, where he completed his studies with a Ministry and Human Services certificate from the Theological Institution of Rising Hope Incorporation, which was accredited through Nyack College. Thus was how he became a licensed New York State chaplain and a certified marriage and funeral officiant. 5 years later, during his incarceration, in July 2013, Mr. Whitehead was released with a glowing behavioral record, but in reality, he was released due to a number of motions filed. He argued that when he changed his mind to plead guilty, the IAD mandated the dismissal of the indictment with prejudice unless he was sentenced within 180 days of filing his request for a final deposition. On March 8, 2018, the defendant was sentenced on the conviction of receiving a stolen property. The court imposed of a term of 114 days with credit for time served. Therefore, Whitehead was released around 2013, and weeks later, the Leaders of Tomorrow ministry was born, with the support of 43 people who believed in him and who would meet up in his home for Bible study, according to his website, which I can't confirm. Also, if you look at the footage that he has inside his church, it's less than 43 people. I mean, I don't even think that he even had 43 chairs. He does do live sermons, so they could be online, but still, come on, dude. Like 43 people, who knows? But that's just something I just wanted to put out there. Now, I will give our bishop credit because he is an amazing orator. The man knows how to spit, sort of like Dr. Umar Johnson.
Hold on, yeah. Nah, I got this. So that Papa Smurf thing ain't gonna work.
Shout out to Omar. I mean, hurry up and get that score running, but if you can see, the guy knows how to speak. But I digress. On September 2021, a lawsuit was filed in Kings County Clerk, New York for $90,000. The plaintiff, I'm going to call her Miss Anderson, and the defendant, well, our boy Bishop Lamor Whitehead. What occurred was Miss Anderson was an attendee of the Leaders of Tomorrow International Church around 2020, recognizing Mr. Whitehead as a bishop and an aspiring candidate for a political office. She was personally introduced to Mr. Whitehead through her son. Now get this. Miss Anderson just survived a life-threatening surgery and she was seeking to purchase a home. Trusting this information with Mr. Whitehead, she came to him for advice and prayer. Being the amazing orator that he is, Bishop Whitehead conjured up a plan offering to help Miss Anderson with her situation. Being a licensed mortgage broker, he used this to convince Miss Anderson in moving $100,000 from her IRA, directing her and the Trans-America representative on the phone. Not understanding his devious plan, Miss Anderson transferred $90,000 as a loan for a home. You see, Miss Anderson fell victim to another fraud. But peep this. Pay attention to Whitehead's patterns. Look at the people that he targets. I'm talking about Mr. Brigado Darman and Miss Anderson. What do they have in common? Well, they're both seniors. Scammers love targeting senior citizens because 1, they have a lot more money than debt in the bank, and 2, they're easy to persuade. In Miss Anderson's case, her being a religious person, individual, like a lot of black women, she must have thought that this was a blessing from God, sending Whitehead to finally get her the dream home that she always prayed for. Unfortunately, she would never receive the money or the home that she asked for. Before giving Whitehead the money, Miss Anderson expressed reservation because she had no other income with which to support herself. Mr. Whitehead offered to provide her $100 per month to live off of until the purchase and renovation of the property was complete. She then withdrew $90,000 from her checking account payable to the Lamor Whitehead Inc. in a cashier's check, which he accepted and upon information and belief deposited it into his bank account. I could understand Miss Anderson's concern because neither his company, Lamor Whitehead Inc., LWI for short, nor Mr. Whitehead provided her with a receipt, written agreement, or contract, or any documentation evidencing the payment. Miss Anderson will contact Whitehead for months on end to inquire as to the status of the purchase of a home for her. But Mr. Whitehead will make excuses such as being busy with his personal political campaign, running for Brooklyn Borough President.
Remember, we are Brooklyn.
He even went as far as texting her that he treated the money that she paid him not as an investment but as a campaign donation, which he was under no obligation to repay. If this is true, then Whitehead is a true dirtbag for this. For real, for real. So what happened to the money? Well, in a court document, Mr. Whitehead used the money to close in on a $4.4 million home with an in-ground pool with a waterfall, outdoor fountains, hot tub, gym, a wine cellar, and among other luxury amenities located in the upper class neighborhood of Saddle River, New Jersey, under his business name, taking ownership and possession of the premises. And reading all these documents, it just boiled my blood to know that this man just didn't give two shits about the individuals that he is scamming. Nonetheless, let me digress, let me calm down, and let me continue. Breaking news. As I was editing this video, I've come to find out that Bishop Lamor Whitehead has been indicted for defrauding Miss Anderson out of her retirement savings, attempting to extort and defraud a businessman, and lying to the FBI. It also says that Whitehead carried out several duplicate schemes in order to receive funds from his victims. Additionally, when speaking with authorities, Whitehead consciously chose to mislead and lie to them. FBI Assistant Director Michael J. Driscoll said, "If you are willing to attempt to obtain funds through false promises and threats, the FBI will ensure that you are made to face the consequences for your action in our justice system." Whitehead, 45 of Paramus, New Jersey, is charged with 2 counts of wire fraud, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years each, 1 count of extortion, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, and 1 count of making false material statements, which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. So if convicted of all 4 counts, our boy is looking at 65 years in prison. Holy, the chickens have definitely come to roost on Whitehead, and I hope his victims get the justice that they deserve from his alleged schemes. On July 2022, Bishop Whitehead was doing a live sermon on Facebook when 2 mass assailants came to the church, subjecting Bishop Whitehead, his family, and the attendees in an armed robbery. Everything was captured live on Facebook, gaining attention from local media and social media commentators. Some even speculated that the robbery may have been a hoax due to the way that it was operated. Now, I refuse to join some type of conspiratorial train because I can't tell, to be honest. I cannot tell whether it's fake or not, and I'd rather not speculate whether it is fake or not. I'd rather just leave that to the authorities and let them tell us what happened, because at the end of the day, I think 2 suspects was actually arrested. Now, the reason why a lot of people did call it fake was because of how calm the brother was on the left of the video, but who knows, maybe he just froze or something. You know, you never know. When you're in that situation, you don't know how you're gonna act, whether you're gonna fall on the ground or you're just gonna stand still, and the brother was just sitting there. But if it was orchestrated, why would the bishop put his family or his attendees at risk? I don't see any benefits of that. I mean, okay, the insurance money for the jewelry that was stolen, okay, maybe his family was in on it, his wife was in on it, but I'm not gonna say that she was in on it, nor I don't even want to mention her at all. This is all about Lamor Whitehead, and I'll just leave it at that. Also, just like I said earlier, 2 suspects was apprehended for the robbery, so all we can do is wait and see what happens and leave everything to the official guys. Nonetheless, that didn't stop a few social media influencers giving their 2 piece and input on the situation, which caused a very bad but yet entertaining feud on IG Live between Bishop Whitehead, blogger Larry Reed Live, and prophetess Genesis Warren, a pastor located in Atlanta, Georgia. What started with Larry discussing the robbery event with Genesis, making jokes here and there, nothing too serious. But the point was whether the robbery was real or fake. This caught the attention of Bishop Lamor Whitehead, who ended up joining the live later on, verbalizing his offense that he took from the discussion and the jokes that they were making. At the same time, berating both Larry and Genesis, targeting Genesis' weight, calling her all types of fatphobic remarks, and using homophobic slurs on Larry. I mean, this guy, dude. I can't stand it when people try to deny their bigotry yet use discriminating slurs that contradicts their claims. If he thought that this would have put him in a good light, it didn't. It actually did more damage, and it turned a whole bunch of people off because, dude, you're a bishop. You're supposed to be a man of God, and you're over here using discriminating slurs, calling people out their name. You're supposed to lead by example, but yet you're out here talking like a street dude. Like, get the fuck out of here. Although Whitehead was upset about their skeptic views of the robbery, what really burned his bubble was that Larry brought up his Cullinan. If you don't know what a Cullinan is, it's a fucking Rolls Royce. Mr. Whitehead Whitehead is obsessed with fucking cars, Rolls Royce, luxury vehicles, all that shit. I mean, this guy is so egotistic. I worry for the poor souls who follow this man. Later that week, Larry went on live with the lead attorney to explain the situation, and I will leave a link for the video below so you guys can definitely check it out, but it also explains Bishop Whitehead's personality as well. As we move to the next segment, I'm starting to think that maybe Bishop Whitehead needs to be more careful when streaming his sermons live, or he needs to hire more security, brother, because one, you need it for your own protection, and two, so that you don't get your hands dirty. Now, I know how a lot of religious folks tend to be more stubborn when it comes to their own protection. You know, the whole God is my shield and armor. And that's a very dangerous way to think, because your belief is not going to stop a fist in your face or around in your chest. You're still prone to getting harmed or deleted off of the face of this earth, so it's best to hire security or even get police officers involved. I say this because on September 2022, Tasha Harwood, a 47-year-old woman, and her friend attended the church, Bishop Whitehead's church, Sunday morning. Both women was caught suspiciously recording the services through their phones. When they were called out, Tasha Harwood stood up, purposely walked towards Whitehead right in front of the camera, claiming she was speaking in tongue. Yeah, sure. To me, she was being antagonizing if you guys watched the video. When Whitehead ended up cuffing the woman by her neck, forcefully escorting her outside of the church. Now, it was told that both women were purposely being disruptive, interrupting the service just for the sake of being belligerent. But in her interview with Larry Reed Live, she completely told a different narrative. Tasha claimed that she attended the church as a case study for research purposes for a book she's working on explaining charismatic leadership within the black community in reference to the church. It's a 50-minute interview, and I recommend you guys check it out. I'll leave the link to the video below. I'll say this, I don't condone a man putting his hands on a woman, but some of you sisters need to be careful when you put yourself out there. You don't know what someone is going to do, and in her case, he got her up out of there. Also, I just want to point one thing out. She said that this was a case study. First of all, when you're doing a case study, you just can't walk to anybody's property. Come on, professionalism. And not only that, you have to inform the person that you're doing the study on. When I was in college, that's what we had to do. We had to inform them prior, whether it's a research paper or a thesis. You have to have proper permission first. Professionalism, people, professionalism. And the way that she handled it, it was far from being professional. The lady was literally acting a fool. Nonetheless, Whitehead, bruh, you're live, you're being recorded. The way you grabbed old girl's hair, it looked like you kind of done that before. I mean, you had perfect aim, dude. With all that hair, you had perfect aim grabbing that neck. So I'm just gonna say that it was janky on both sides and both people were wrong. Moving on. Both were later arrested for the altercation, but it just comes to show that this dude just can't stay clean. This guy has so much going on. It's like he's just a huge target, but the problem that I find is that he's also putting his family at risk. He needs to chill out. He needs to get everything in order because he just have too much crap going on. And that includes your spending, my dude, because with the luxury cars, the huge home, the Gucci suits, the jewelry, I mean, dude, look at your debt. I mean, his recent home is already up for sale. He already defaulted on the $4.5 million mortgage on the property in Paramus, New Jersey. He already has one pending lawsuit for $90,000 against him, and now just found out that he's feuding with the financial company over his Rolls Royce payments. What the fuck, bro? Man, I'm just done. I'm just done with this guy. And like I said, you guys can make your own conjectures in the comment section below, but I am so glad I'm done with this video because it's been frustrating a little bit just reading all these things, and the fact that people actually still follow him, it just amazes me. But like I said, I'll leave the opinions to you guys. I'm not gonna tell you who you should listen to or who you shouldn't, or who you should follow and who you should not follow. I'm just here to point out the facts, okay? This is all about the facts, all right? So until the next one, guys.
Take the pictures. Hurry up and take the pictures.